Okay, so yeah, or maybe just I'm just going to mention a few things because there are some new people here, and uh, and if any questions come up along the way, just feel free to jump in and ask away. So yeah, so as I mentioned, this whole sadhana, it's really we're moving attention from the world of changing phenomena, to the self, or to I amness, to beingness, however you want to say it, pure consciousness. So Ramana Maharshi said you just put attention on the self, and that's it. That's sadhana. That's the whole practice. But of course, the mind, is in, there's great motion in the mind. So that's why we have these techniques like this dyad process, to allow us to clear the mind. But really, it's about just abiding as awareness, just being here. So this imperative, tell me who you are. It really, at the beginning, it seems like there's something to do. There's something for the mind to figure out, something to uncover. I got to find out somehow who I am. But it's actually when that conditioned mind relaxes, when we can just be here, who we are becomes apparent. It just is. It's when this veil of this seeking and doing mind drops away that what we are is just revealed directly. So it becomes clear over time, tell me who you are. It's like a Zen koan. It actually is a Zen koan. It actually came from Zen. So Charles Berner, took this Zen koan, and the koans are, they're not meant to find an answer on the level of the mind. They're meant to actually kind of frustrate the mind, or bring you to a place where the mind can let go, the mind can drop off. So so when it comes time to inquire, when you intend to directly experience who you are, when you receive that imperative, just notice, if is the mind trying to do something in that moment? Is the mind trying to figure something out? Does the mind move? When someone gives you that imperative, does the mind move? So really take time to just be. When you receive the imperative, there should be a period of time where you're just inquiring directly, or you could say just being without doing in the mind, just allowing, just being open. So if you receive the imperative, and and then immediately the mind jumps in with words or an answer or something, that means you haven't taken that time to do that inquiry. So really do that, the inquiry part of it. Don't miss that part. Sometimes the mind gets excited about clearing and sharing, and there's stuff coming up, but but we don't want to miss that part where we intend to directly experience who we are. And yeah, so just be open, and be open to something totally new. The conditioned mind has no idea. The conditioned mind can't know, because the conditioned mind only knows thoughts. It only knows memories. It only knows experiences. So who you are, it from that mind perspective, who you are could be anything. The mind doesn't know. So, yeah, I would say the biggest thing in this practice is to just remain open. And, I use the phrase a don't know mind that comes from Zen, or a beginner's mind, which is just a mind that is open. And it was mentioned, sometimes when the mind gets really tired, the mind it loses its grip, it loses its control. So a tired mind, a confused mind it's good. If sometimes when the mind is confused, and the mind has to sort of get confused and frustrated in this process because it can't do it. It's doomed to fail. So a confused mind, if you can allow the mind to just sort of go through this process of letting go of knowing, letting go of controlling, then the energy that was going into that mind starts to build. If the mind can just really relax, that energy starts to build, and there can be sort of a sense of ease, a sense of aliveness that starts to come, and it's that sense of aliveness that is more who you are. So the paradox is, the little mind will never really know, but you'll become that. You'll that when that energy, that aliveness starts to come, you'll feel more like you. You'll feel more like alive, more real, and that's what's leading us in, a direction of freedom. That's leading us to more of who we are. So for the mind, it's a little paradoxical. It never gets to really know who you are. It's actually when it drops out of the way, that beingness it's just directly experienced. Yeah, and there's a question. Yeah, Hema? Yeah.
Yeah, so you were saying that you allow your mind or you don't allow, who is allowing that? Is that,
Yeah. So when I say allowing, and yeah, this is the tricky thing with language. Yeah. So that's a very good question. I love that question. So yeah. So if I say things like, just allow, or just be open, or sometimes teachers will say, surrender. The mind may hear that and think that there's something to do in order to make those things happen. So to be open, or so so the mind that, so if you think about, just being here, like just surrendering to what is. So what is, it already is. So there's literally nothing for the mind to do. There is no doer. There's no need for doing. So that question, you know, that it's a really good question, because if you really go into it, who's the doer of anything, of everything. So if you just allow everything to be as it is, we're sort of noticing how the mind, in these dyads, what comes up is that the mind, it's constantly kind of resisting or doing things. It's resisting what is, the conditioned the I thought is nothing but resistance to what is. So it's constantly in motion. It's constantly moving and evaluating. And so when we just allow, then we're not adding more resistance to that conditioned mind. We're just literally letting everything be as it is. And then you can, investigate, like that question that you just asked is the question. Who's moving that mind? The attention. If you start to watch attention, moving around, like who's choosing to move that attention here and there. So yeah, that really go into that. That's what we want to go into in the dyads. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Because in the meditation, right, in the afternoon, you were saying that rather than you pay attention, you know, go where the attention is something you said. I don't remember, but it's rather than I pay attention, go where the attention is or something, and then be with that, I think. So that's also led me, the question is, who is doing that?
Mhm.
From going, the attention here to there to, is that part of the mind or is it, yeah.
So what are you working with in your practice right now? Can you tell me a little bit about what you're working with and what's happening?
So being a Vipassana meditator, right? So um, right now is the breath. So when I'm even listening to the presence, is the whole nasal part goes up. So that's where the first step of attention, followed by the body scan. It's the scan of the body. So that has been the practice.
Mhm.
But today afternoon, it was rather than I start paying attention to go move down or
Yeah.
uh, go where. I think you had said something very beautifully, which I don't have the words, is where is most available rather than resisting, go here, go there,
Mhm.
and then start from there.
Mhm. So you've done Vipassana 10-day retreats before? Yeah. So that's perfect. And you've worked with that technique before. So the techniques that I offer at this retreat, they're really sort of the beginning of the practice, which you've already familiarized yourself with those. If you've done 10-day retreats, you know how to move attention and do the body scan and all of that. So what I would say is to me, like the progression of the meditation is when we're moving towards less doing, less
Mm.
control, less intentional moving of attention. So you could maybe start to shift instead of moving attention through the body and doing that body scan, just don't choose. Just see, what's happening, like where is attention going, and that question, like who is the mover of that attention. So the further we go in the practice, the more we come to just being aware, and the practice of meditation becomes a practiceless practice. There's no doing in it. This attention that's moving, all of this, we start to see that who we are actually is beyond all of that. That's all the conditioned mind that is choosing and moving attention here and there. So first we make it conscious. We just see what's happening, and inquire, who is aware of that mind? Who is aware of the attention? You know, that attention is like a camera that moves here and there. So, who's choosing to move that camera, and who are you? So that's what we want to really explore here. Yeah, and it's not something to figure out, so it's important that I'm not giving you something to do. I'm not adding more to your mind. It's not like a problem for the mind to solve, but we can just relax and just see what's happening, you know, and just inquire directly. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I ask you one thing?
Sure.
So, as I mentioned, as a witness, like, my facial expression changes, sometimes tears comes out. Is it okay as a, because
Yeah.
I right now my state is, the person who is doing inquiry, if they see my tears or my facial expressions changing, it's automatic, right? Like there's no, um, is that going to influence? That's what I'm worrying about. Yeah.
Yeah, it might influence, but that's okay. Yeah, it's so the neutrality is only there because we don't want to evaluate our partner in any way. So if it's a normal human thing to, emotions will come up. And if we're very empathic, sometimes we will actually feel what our partner is going through. And they'll feel what we're going through. So there'll be like a synchronization that happens, and that's beautiful. That's normal. We don't want to shut anything down that's just a natural unfolding in this process. So it's, the neutrality is really just there as a guideline, as a, but we don't want to be, like rigid robots, like trying to like, oh, I can't express anything. No, it's like, energy is going to move, feelings come through, tears, all that's just natural. And yeah, so that's totally perfect. Yeah. Mhm. Okay, I'm just going to mention a few more things for those who are new to the practice. Um, so yeah, so these, I've talked about in the meditation, um, the obstacles that come up, the hindrances, um, are not really hindrances. So what seems to be standing in the way actually is the way. So all of these things, whether it's tiredness or an aversion that comes up, craving, aversion, desire, maybe doubts will come up in the mind. Um, all of these things are opportunities to just see what's in play in the conditioned mind. Just to notice how the ego is resisting what is. That I thought is just nothing but resistance, and that is what brings suffering in life. So we just make that conscious. There's nothing to do except allow it, and just inquire. There was someone the other night, uh, a real tiredness coming up in the dyad practice. And it's beautiful. Sometimes tiredness can really be a powerful thing if we're, coming to a point where we're really observing the mind body, and the character. And sometimes it becomes apparent that, this body mind is tired, but we can inquire, like, is awareness tired? The awareness that's here, is awareness tired? And we can start to realize, like, if awareness actually is never tired, it's just aware. It's just purely aware. And the more the sense of I is with that awareness, the more I'm not tired. So it can be, when we start to really go into these hindrances, they can be very powerful kind of gateways into realizing who we are, realizing ourselves as awareness, waking up directly as that awareness beyond the mind and body. And there's a few pointers that are, just reminders that I like to reinforce these things, because little things creep in all the time. So So as a witness, we want to be, you know, we want to be very neutral, no facial expression, no evaluation, no sense that we're evaluating our partner in any way. So no nodding or contraction, uh, and but we don't want to be rigid about it as well. The witness is relaxed, they're neutral, they're open, receptive. And when you're witnessing, you're just putting attention on what your partner is saying. You're just really listening to what they're saying. So not, there may be thoughts that come up, but you want to put your attention on, really paying attention to what's being said rather than your own thoughts. And yeah, and keeping eye contact. Um, it's been mentioned, but I'll mention it again. The use of words like I and me and mine are uh, amazing opportunities to really inquire into who we are. In day-to-day life, these words just get used over and over. We use the word I constantly, but who does that I refer to? So sometimes in the inquiry, if we can just catch it, just catch that, oh, I just used the word I. And, maybe I was saying I'm tired or you know, I'm feeling this way. So who is that I? Is that I referring to the body? Is it referring to maybe a belief? So we can just start to go into it. So we're not, it's not about eliminating those words. We don't want to get rid of them. We're not censoring ourselves in any way. We're completely free to let whatever's coming up come up. But just be a little more conscious of those words. Just bring them into clarity and just see, is it true when I'm using these words? Is it true when I say I? Is that really me, or does it feel like me? Does it feel true? Yeah. So yeah, one thing I'll just mention. We're, throughout the retreat, we talk about the five skandhas and this part of the mind that is observing the mind. There's a part of the mind that is like that camera, the witnessing part of the mind that is observing the mind. So one of the things that happens is, we in this process, we're coming to this witnessing part of the mind. This is an important part of the practice. We want to rather than getting caught in the phenomena of the mind, and just reacting to thoughts, we come to this witness. So, so that's an important step in the practice is to recognize the witness. But there's still in that witnessing, there's still this duality. So, so when there's a witness, there's an awareness of, or a witnessing of, or there's a consciousness of something. But when we really inquire directly into our true nature, it becomes more just being. Like, so it's a consciousness as rather than a consciousness of. So we want to just recognize, like, who is aware of both witness and witnessed, and it's not even aware of that. It's just who is aware as both the witness and witnessed. You know, Intend to directly experience that awareness.
tell me who
Yeah.
you are. Do you ever say it again if it's been a while and they haven't talked?
Yeah, it's a fine balance. Like normally I would say no, but there are
Okay.
times
Yeah.
like yeah, so if I tell here's what happens. So if I tell people, you can say it again, if a lot of time goes by, sometimes people start to kind of hammer their partner with it.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we don't want to do that. But there are times where, if it feels like really the person is getting lost, or there like a lot of time has gone by, and there's like a real disconnect, then it's okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I would say like there's a little bit of a balance there. So, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, you know, what we don't want to do is, sometimes just sitting in silence, just sort of marinating in the silence, there it can be very potent and very powerful as well. So we don't want to just fill that silence, with the imperative. It's sometimes that silence is like a pregnant silence, and you just want to allow it to marinate or whatever's happening in that silence. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. I felt it arising and I was like watching it, so it's super helpful. I felt before I got on today, I felt like I was dying. I don't know if people get that feeling. Like I feel like my ego feels like it's going to die, and I don't know if it's me or the ego. I was really thought I was going. I have had this happen before when I felt the awakeness. I felt like it felt like death,
Mm.
and I didn't know if you wanted to
Yeah,
speak to that.
yeah, that's amazing on day one already. That's awesome. That's yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
and I love
confusing though. It's trippy.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, I love your honesty, like that like you're saying, you don't know if that's you, and that's exactly what happens with this process, this whole sadhana. Um, it gets real, it feels like it has to feel like like it because we've been identified with this character, this ego character. So, we if we're just sort of in this witnessing position, and just kind of cruising through the meditations and the dyads, and we're just kind of this aloof witness, we're not really making contact with the depth of these samskaras. So what
mhm,
I hear you describing, it's feeling real for you. It's feeling
mhm,
like the sense of I is right there. Um, and that's it. That's, it has to be that. It has to come up. There has to be, a real feeling of I there. And it does feel like dying, it's
mhm,
the letting go of control of,
mhm,
brings up fear. And it can be connected to past experiences. So yeah, that's normal, and it's awesome
mhm.
that you're experiencing that on day one.
I don't know.
It's usually I do a talk about fear on, I think it's on day three. So you're ahead of the game for sure.
Oh,
Um,
oh,
but yeah,
mm,
I really go into exactly what's happening with that, and there, feeling the fear in the body, and there's a somatic element to that as well, to just
mhm,
relaxing and just letting it be. And yeah, but so when that fear comes up, that's a beautiful opportunity to inquire, who does that fear belong to?
mhm.
Mm,
Yeah, or that there's death. Yeah. The
yeah.
last time I had this awakening, it was when my mom passed. So
Mm,
I was really sitting with death. That's how I entered non-duality. I didn't really pursue it, but
yeah.
so it always comes that feeling of well, just with everything, stories, everything's dying. It just starts to, yeah, there is this fear of what will I die? Will
Yeah.
it's like, will this body just yeah, I notice it. I don't quite have words for it, but
Yeah.
um
That's amazing. And that tangible feeling of death and fear, that, you're touching something very deep there. So
yeah,
it's at those moments that the inquiry is really powerful.
yeah,
Because yeah, like the body, like we know, intellectually we know the body and mind die,
yeah,
all body minds die, so you know that's the question. Am I that body mind? Is that what I
yeah,
am?
right.
Like who am I? If
Yeah.
that fear lives in the body mind, it's very feels very real, and there's a sense of I that is entangled with that. So that's what we want to inquire into. Who am I? You know,
Mm-hmm.
at that
Yeah.
fear, am I that fear? Am I that? All these things are the fear is it's always coming and going. It doesn't stick around for that long
Mm-hmm.
usually. And so but who am I? That is aware of that fear. You know, like right now in this moment, that same awareness is having this experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, so who or what is that doesn't come and go? All this
Yeah.
phenomena is changing. The phenomena is coming and going. The fear, the feelings, sensations,
Mm-hmm.
thoughts. But what is it? This this
Mm-hmm.
this consciousness that doesn't come and go. You know,
Yeah.
and that's what we want to directly experience that in our dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering about the eye contact thing. It seems to whatever's over here that it's much easier to go inside without being outside at the same time. So and it also feels like maybe it's not a good idea to have your eyes closed while you're communicating the entire time to your part. So,
Mhm.
yeah, will
Mhm.
help with a little guidance there.
Yeah, sure, sure. I'm just gonna change our view here. Here we go. Okay. So yeah, so with this technique, the intention is to find out our true nature, to awaken, um, realize who we are. So who we are is as it is, no, whether the eyes are closed or open. So you can't do it wrong. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But a lot of people, when they do the inquiry, it feels more natural to go inward. So when you receive the imperative, tell me who you are, it may be a natural impulse to close the eyes, and to just be. In that inquiry, there's nothing we have to do with the mind. So when we close the eyes, some people can come to a place of stillness more easily. So that's the first part of the technique. And then, the second part is to just report whatever comes up as a result of that inquiry. So whatever moves in the mind and body as a result of doing that inquiry, then we want to reconnect with our partner. So that's when we want to connect with the partner's eyes. We want to, really communicate fully whatever it is that's coming up in that process. So if our eyes are closed and, we're just talking, we're not really connected to our partner. So that communication process is really important. So yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And so if you get stuck, closing and going in again, and, is that typical as well?
Yeah, yeah, like if you feel the impulse to go back in, sometimes people will do that a couple times, or yeah, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's yeah, you just kind of, there's an inherent kind of intuition with this that starts to come online for people. So, yeah, so just trust that intuition. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah. Thank you. And another thing that can happen in the dyads as well, the mind loves to focus on, things to kind of take us away from the actual inquiry and the dyad. So, so I would say, sometimes the mind loves to focus on time and, any little detail like that. Just don't worry about it too much. What we want to find is just a real natural flow with these dyads. We want to just really, be in a connection with our partner directly, and don't worry too much about, anything that is happening. And there can be little glitches and things that might happen. We're still getting stuff sorted out, but for the most part, it's working well. But
Okay, I got it. So it's more like a flow that we don't even have to look at the clock. Like we can just flow.
yeah, yeah. As long as you're going back and forth, when there's been a complete sharing, you do the inquiry, you share whatever comes up, and usually it's about, 4 or 5, 6 minutes around there. And then usually there's a feeling like you've done the inquiry, you feel complete, and then yeah, then you pass it over to your partner.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is my first time doing
Mhm.
anything, and I was very thankful to Gita for, I guess maybe she's done it before, but she was sort of providing me with vocabulary to use.
Mm.
Otherwise, I'm kind of lost.
Mm.
But I still felt like I was intellectually reaching,
Mhm.
right? Uh, and I mean, I could certainly, the interesting thing was seeing that,
Mm.
but I still felt like I was very much intellectually reaching. And I don't want to say faking it because that's not accurate.
Yeah.
I think I entered into the spirit of the thing,
Mhm.
but I just felt like I was saying more or less the same thing over and over
Mhm.
with slight differences,
Yeah.
but not a whole lot. And maybe the point is just to keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that until the rational mind just gets tired of it and falls. I don't know, but that's kind of where I was at about the whole thing.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, that's what you're reporting is very common. So that's for a lot of people. It really it always starts out with the mind. It always starts out like the rational mind is in play at the beginning. So
Hmm.
so it's good that you're feeling that already. Usually sometimes it takes people a little while to, they come to a point where that they realize that it's the same answers, or that, there's this almost like a roboticness to the, what's happening there. And in like in the self-inquiry world, like Ramana Maharshi always said, at the beginning, when you inquire into the true self, at first what you see is always the false self. So it's if we didn't have the false self coming up, we'd be already awakened beings. So that the whole exercise is to see that, to see what's coming up. And how does that feel? Like we can report on that as well. When you notice it's the mind, answering, or looking for conceptual answers, or the mind's trying to do something. How does that feel in the body? Does it feel does it feel authentic? Does it feel like there could be a greater sense of ease that could come? Maybe we start to feel a contraction in the energy. Every time the mind generates a thought, maybe there's something, a little bit of movement in the body. Maybe the breath changes. So we start to tune into the whole pattern of what's happening in the mind body. And you actually hit on something like the mind eventually, if we do this long enough, stuff starts to come up. So, it might be a sense of frustration. It might be, maybe the mind will just give up, and then something deeper might come up. And when those deeper things start to come up, it could be anything. It could be memories from childhood. It could be we never know what to expect. You can't. It's good to just have a not knowing mind, and then and just keep doing it. And the amazing thing about this practice is, it's just by continuously being present with a partner, it's like that continuous presence and continuous kind of investigating into what's coming up. Things start to change. What's in the unconscious starts to come to the surface. So it really is a process. So at the beginning, the mind is a little bit confused and doesn't really make sense what we're doing, but eventually that mind will start to drop off, and those deeper levels will start to come to the surface. So it's just like in meditation. If you're in meditation for days, things start to happen. There's a sort of dissolving of certain mind processes that happen over time, and that's really the essence of this technique.
Okay, I see. Thank you. Right.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that was a good question.
Yeah, just one thing. I just want to verify if I'm completely out of the track or if I understand something now. I realized with me and also with the other partners during the dyads that we all arrive at a sign, what I call a wall. That at this point, nothing happens. No thought, no feeling, no emotion, just quiet inside, but no thought, nothing. And always during the dyad, the other partner said, I have absolutely nothing to say. There's nothing is coming.
Yeah.
And I realized for myself, I don't know if I'm right or if it's just an illusion, but if I persevere in that wall and I'm still asking myself, who am I? I'm going in the same process, that at this point, at this moment, something can happen. But I call it like a hole in the wall. That means that's like a direct experience happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. I'm just asking if it is an illusion or if it is something normal now.
Yeah. I'll talk about the wall. And Charles Berner calls this no man's land. So we come to this place where the mind has settled. There's not a lot of phenomena coming up, and this is a good place to be in the practice. The practice gets very subtle at this point, and so when you say there nothing happens, it sounds like the mind will expect something to happen. It wants something to happen. Yeah, like you want, especially if you've had experiences of beautiful states, and you've done quite a bit of this work now, so you're feeling the benefit of what can happen, when the mind goes quiet. So the mind may start looking for these states, but the paradox is, if we can just allow ourselves to be with awareness, just with bare awareness, just okay with what is in the moment, without giving the mind any fuel. So the mind wants states, or the mind has an expectation. It's looking for something based on the past. So if we can be truly okay with what is, just with the bare awareness, just being, then the mind has dropped at that point. If we're just okay, if there's no movement, there's no momentum of the mind, then that energy becomes free, and that is the change of the state. Then that's the deepening, is when we've given up, seeking, we've given up, that seeker that is looking for something. Then it's like everything opens. Everything is just here, as it is. So this is the paradox. Um, so this wall, or this no man's land, it isn't really a wall. It's like we come to the witness at this point. It's like we're bumping up against the witness. There's this part of the mind that seems to be a witness. There seems to be someone here witnessing, and this part of the mind that can move. In the teachings, I've talked about the five skandhas and all of that. So there's this mind, the witness and the witnessed, and it's just kind of sitting there, but it's still a duality. And if we can just be okay with that, not give it any more energy, that's when this opening happens. It's just but we can't be looking for anything. That's the the tricky part of it is, once we go through that process a few times, the mind will start to expect it. The mind will start to develop a knowing around it, and try to make it happen. It's like put these conditions in place and try to make it happen again. So every time we go through the cloud of unknowing, every time we have to have the beginner's mind, the don't know mind. We come back to the beginning as a beginner each time.
Yeah, that was my point exactly, because what I want to know exactly, because I feel personally when I arrive at this state,
Mhm.
it's like I said to myself, oh, that's the right state to be.
Mhm.
When there is no blah, 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 blah from the mind, it's just total silence.
Mhm.
That's where exactly I want to be more conscious, more aware, to look what happens inside,
Mhm.
to be able to receive if something happens. If nothing happens, nothing happens, doesn't matter. But
Mhm.
I think for me, when I arrive at this state, I say, yeah, I arrive at the point. Maybe it will be today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. I don't know when, but it's the right point to that this wall of this veil open for a while.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even that veil opening, that whatever phenomena is unfolding in that space. When we inquire, like the truth of who we are, isn't in any change, or any change of state, or in any phenomena. So whatever the mind is doing, that veil, the veil comes and goes. There's a stillness of mind, but who I am, whether the mind is active or not active, my awareness is there, in every state, veil, no veil, so that's the one we want to know, that one. Can I directly experience that awareness that is aware of all of the changing states? So in that place where there appears to be that wall, the wall, and another name for it is the gateless gate in Zen, you know,
Mhm.
the gateless gate. So it appears that there's a veil. It appears that there's a wall. It appears that something has to give way. And it seems that that's true until we recognize the truth, the awareness that's always here. And we realize, it's always here. It's just the mind that is changing states, that wants, a different state. So this whole continuum, from identification on one end to total samadhi on the other end,
Mhm.
there's the knower of that continuum.
Yeah, I agree, but a direct experience can happen. It's
Hmm.
possible.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
want exactly to say
Yeah.
that strange phenomena or things like that, but
Yeah.
like you just what I call to be a low bamboo. Something happened. Whew,
Hmm.
we understand, we feel something. There is a ha-ha inside. There's something happening inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the perfect time, to really inquire. When you're in that state, when the mind is really quiet. It's that direct inquiry. it's the best time to do that inquiry. Who am I? That is aware. If I'm aware, the mind has gone quiet. So I'm sort of looking at this quiet mind. I'm in this place of just being. Who am I that can see the mind? You know. Hi, Rosie.
Hi, Dan.
Good
Been
to
a
see
while.
you. Yeah.
Good to see you.
Mm-hmm.
So recently, there was a noticing of just sort of the pattern of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it became pretty obvious that the thoughts are creating the suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And thoughts, like, I would just be there, just quiet, and it was obvious that I'm not the thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was just silence. Like it was just nothing, space, silence. I don't know the right word for it. I'm trying to report
Mm-hmm.
what I can. Um,
Yeah.
and it seemed really easy. It was like there was nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just silence. There were not even thoughts. And yeah, that was the experience.
Yeah.
And then then the thoughts start popping up. Well, how do I extend this? What now? Like all these other things that were also noticed as thoughts
Yeah.
that I don't have to, like, it's not me that's thinking, what do I do next? But rather there's a thought that's saying what to do next. And there's an I thought that comes and there's like, and then like, oh, I have a problem and what do I do? And that was sort of seen. That's not me.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So I have a question. Is there a sense or a belief that we have to get rid of thoughts?
yeah, there's a not all the time. When I'm there, there's no belief that I should get rid of the thoughts. But when I'm there, then the belief comes and all these other things come
Mm-hmm.
later. Like it's hard. I'm trying to, well, I would say I am trying to sustain again, but it was just beingness there. Then these thoughts would come, well, how do I hold this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then it was also seen it's not me, there's another thought.
Yeah.
But then eventually I'd get caught up in that. Like, that just
Yeah.
blank space is not continuous.
Yeah. 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 So what's coming up for me, there's something this is kind of very subtle, but it's extremely important in this practice. So when we like there's this sadhana that we're doing, which clears the mind and it tends to bring us to this place of stillness, this presence. And so the practice is be still and know. We come to this stillness, and this is where awakening can happen. It's when that mind isn't generating thoughts. That's the perfect space for awakening to happen. So that's good. That's awesome when that happens. But what we want, we don't want to just you can't live life just with no thought. Like there's no like we will always have thoughts. Even a fully enlightened Buddha, will have thoughts coming up. It's part of the phenomena of life. So the thoughts are going to come back, but what gets extinguished is the I thought that is wrapped up in there. So it's like my thought that becomes a problem. So and those I thoughts are always wanting something to be other than what is. So that I thought can be attached to having no thoughts. It can be attached to stillness. But what we want to recognize, when we're in that space of of silence and stillness, we want to recognize directly the awareness that is ever present. And when we recognize that awareness directly, then the thoughts can come back and it's no problem. The thoughts will, um, you know, even after a full-on awakening and full kensho, whatever's in the unconscious is still, those vasanas will come in different facets of life and they'll come up to be cleared. But then it's not a problem because if we allow, we just recognize that awareness is ever present, then it's not about, achieving some state. It's not about, having this, the quiet pond with no ripples. That's beautiful when that happens. It's so peaceful. But we won't be looking for that. When the waves are there, when the mind is there, we still recognize the self in fully present. So there's no preference for whether there's thoughts in the mind or no thoughts.
So when you say like even as this moment right here, there's
Mhm.
just beingness,
Yeah.
there's not much activity, and but I cannot say I am this. It's just nothing is happening. I'm just looking at the screen and there's quiet, there's this little high frequency sound or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's nothing really happening right now.
Hmm.
Um, and then eventually it won't be sustained. And then the I thought will come, and then I will interact with somebody, and
Hmm.
then it will be like, oh, what? And then this, what should I do? I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't choose anything. I have all these
Yeah.
conceptual, I shouldn't
Yeah.
choose anything. I should just be here. I shouldn't want this. I have projects to do, but if I'm not the chooser, I'm not like, it gets really jumbled up very fast for me because
Yeah.
I'm trying to maintain something that's not, can you help me kind of like integrate how to live like,
So you're seeing a pattern, right? You're saying this is how it usually goes. You've been through
yes,
this process. So there's an almost like an expectation in the mind that this is going to be how it goes. So that is, that expectation or that knowing mind is, it is the filter. It is the veil, so I always say like it is about coming to a don't know mind or a beginner's mind, like really not knowing, in this moment, like really not knowing how things are going to go, how inquiry is meant to go, anything you've learned about, you've been practicing this for a while now, so the mind has developed a sort of, knowing like of how the whole thing kind of works, and that knowing is itself, the filter. It's the, the thing that perpetuates itself
I
continuously.
see what I'm missing as I'm talking to you. That the thought that says it should be this, I'm missing that
Yeah.
as not me. I think I should do something, but that's not me. It's
Yeah.
just the I thought that keeps getting missed,
Yeah.
and
That's
it's
it.
kind of driving the show.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in this moment right now, the being, do you have a sense of I amness or the being?
Totally. Yes,
Yeah.
it's very strong,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So
There's
what,
nothing to do. It's just right here.
yeah.
There's nothing
Yeah.
to do. It's
What's
easy.
missing in this moment?
Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing that makes it seem like there's something missing is, that mind that, it's when we've had these beautiful openings and there's an energetic state that, the mind generates the preference to that state. So this little knowing mind, has it's looking for something, and it's such a paradox when we fully allow ourselves to not know, really become a beginner again in this moment, then it's like, oh yeah, it's right here. Everything, the bliss, everything, all those beautiful things flow from this openness and this not knowing. And as soon as I think, oh, I have to do something to get the bliss, it's gone. And that's the paradox is, the more we're just okay with whatever is showing up in this moment, the more it just self-liberates. Everything just sort of self-liberates as as soon as we see that the mind is playing this game, and it gets more and more subtle, as we go, deeper into this practice with these states. Some of these states seem so they're so they seem so important, because they're so beautiful, and we think, oh, this is it. But again, it's just a state. If there's phenomena to it, then it's just coming and going like everything else.
Don't know. Thank you. So the don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So the one thing that doesn't come and go is what you are.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.